Hello out there, fans. Welcome back finally to another edition of the U.S. Foxes podcast, coming to you live, as always, from various parts of the United States. We've got myself in San Diego. We've got wonderful Jason Becker in New York and Mr. Jim Harris down in Houston joining us this evening. Boys, how are we doing? Jason, I'll start with you. Good to see you again, man. It has been a while.
I'm doing all right, but probably not as good as you guys. I saw looked like you had a blast out in Florida, which was a great way to spend the time when Leicester dropped points again. So you were in a better spot than me. So I'm looking forward to hearing all about the shenanigans down in Orlando.
Oh yeah,
Well,
and
it's not
hello,
very
welcome.
often that you get shit talked by a Brighton fan. Yeah, Jim and I did that together, didn't we, Jim?
We did, yeah, and happy New Year to first of all you, Jason. I saw Matt this weekend, and happy New Year to all of the listeners. Hello, listener, as James Richardson says on Totally Football. I'll make it personal to you, and I'm glad to be back. And we had a great time in Orlando. We missed the New York Foxes, but we had a good turnout. Great to see some familiar faces. Great to meet some new people as well. And yeah, like you said, we didn't quite get the result, but we scored a couple of goals and we nearly won. And right till the end, I'm sure we'll get into that in a second.
Yeah, we definitely had a good time despite, like Jason said, giving points away. Chris may not be with us tonight in person. He's producing the show back scenes. He's the hero this evening. So big shout out to our other co-host who is working the board tonight, but not on there. Love you, buddy. But yeah, you guys, it was an incredible time. Of course, if you're not familiar, we're talking about the Premier League live event that took place in Orlando over the weekend. We were down there, Jim and I were down there in the sea of people. It was definitely one of the most attended ones that I've been at, in probably one of the smallest spaces. So they definitely have to figure out some of the logistics of cramming that many people into a small space. But overall, it was great. Not a big change in weather for me, but I know a lot of the people that made the trip from the East Coast down to Florida were enjoying the sun. So we did have a good time, but man, it just seems like we're seeing the same issues pop up again, and Harvey can't finish, and yeah, but yeah, we miss
That's
you. We
cool.
missed you, Jason.
Oh yeah, well, look for the folks who are listening, or the folk who is listening. Uh, these guys made me nice and jealous this weekend, just pumping the group chat, the US Foxes group chat, with photos and videos of everything going down there. So it did look pretty nice from all the way up here, and I will make sure I don't miss the next one with you guys.
Absolutely. Well, guys, let's dive into it. We've been gone for a while. Life has gotten in the way. We've had people on vacation. We've had all sorts of work events, people starting new jobs. You name it, it's been going on. So we do apologize for the lack of pods. I wasn't working back until we got a win in the league. So, but still got that, and here we are, regardless, begging for your forgiveness for our lack of pods. So we're back on schedule now, guys, and yeah, let's dive into what we missed, gentlemen. World Cup break ended, and since then it's just been. We came into that World Cup break. If you look back at the show that was right before it, it was strutting into the World Cup break, because that's exactly what we were doing, Jim. And dude, good God, if we could have talked about, if we could have said at the time, we did say at the time, we were worried about and pissed off about this, once in a lifetime World Cup in the winter, and what effect that could have on our momentum. And fuck me, dude, if it didn't just shoot out our tires.
Yeah, absolutely. It's almost like a Groundhog Day of the start of the season. Clearly there's something about preseason and preseason mid-break that causes us to fall apart and have a huge hangover. Maybe bigger hangovers than we all had at Christmas and New Year combined, or the holidays and New Year combined. And it was a good World Cup to watch. It was nice to maybe have a little break. Looking back now, it was nice to not have to watch Leicester for a bit now, based on what we're being served up. But the way we're playing before the break, actually, it was quite tear-jerking to actually kind of stop the run and lose that momentum.
Yeah, I was at
Seriously,
West
I mean,
Ham away right before the last game before the break, and I'm telling you, man, like spirits could not be any higher. Like it was a fun away day, and it was a fun, away end. People were just in, good spirits and just really looking to soak up that last bit of club football and before the World Cup break and those lesser withdrawal symptoms would start. And yeah, it just felt like, life was good again. And boy, what a difference a break makes. And Jim, I did notice though when you were talking about hangovers, you talked about Christmas and New Year's combined, but you conveniently left out the Orlando Fan Fest hangover. So I can imagine that was even bigger than Christmas and New Year's combined.
I think for some of the loyal Foxes, yes, definitely there was there may be some sore heads and definitely some sore throats from a good show, good turnout. And once again, we got a shout out from Rebecca for our enthusiastic fan base that was singing, and I think maybe some of you folks saw dancing as well while we were on TV. We have a few of the dancing crew with good friend Eddie dancing with the seagull. And of course, Mike Barksdale from Tacoma in Washington, of course, always doing his breakdance moves at the front of the crowd base as well.
it was a very, very, very joyful bunch. I will say that. And yeah, as always, we were the loudest group, which is when you look at just the sheer number of us versus some of the bigger groups that don't sing, and that it's just a big, awkward group of people standing around versus us who are all hugging and singing and literally just loving being together, and then the football comes second. And it's just such a different atmosphere from everybody else. And I think there were 5 or 6 Brighton fans. So there wasn't, versus like Philly where we had the good Crystal Palace turnout. There's a good Crystal Palace turnout again in Orlando. So shout out those guys. But, in Philly, we were singing back and forth to them. They were a very robust fan base as well. And it was the exact opposite of Brighton. So I didn't have to use my voice nearly as much. So not quite the Philly 3-day sore throat going on. And I'm happy for that.
We definitely missed the New York Foxes cheerleaders. Who
100%
really, were the heart of the rallying cry behind, and leading some familiar songs as well as some new ones as well. We tried to get a few going. I'm still working on my James Madison song, so to the tune of Mrs. Robinson, but I don't know if that one will ever catch on.
He had a few good drafts that we heard, Jason.
Sorry. I'll throw those ones, those drafts on the songs and new songs and chants thread on Fox's Talk and see what the reception is like up there.
Definitely. Let's go down the list here, guys, and just do quick reaction. Just so maybe you guys have been in a hole somewhere or in a coma, and you just woke up and you're like, what the hell went on with this football team? Because
if you you didn't realize how lucky you are.
Exactly, because we went from the Brendan Rodgers redemption tour to to be fair, it was Leicester City 3, MK Dons 0. So when we came back, it was like, okay, the boys are back, the boys are clicking. We go from that right into getting our asses handed to us by Newcastle 3-0. The Bluefoot was awful because, as I've mentioned before, now here in San Diego, the bar here in San Diego, they used to have 6 fans. Now they have 26 fans, and it was just embarrassing to get whipped like that right off the bat. On Boxing Day, everybody has the day off, and that was just awful. Jason, your thoughts quickly on that one as we dive through this list?
Yeah, never got into that game. We just knew it was going to be a disaster right from the get-go. Giving up that early goal set the tone for the rest of the game. I think the less said just about just a complete shambles there, the better.
Yeah, we jumped from that one then to Liverpool, a 2-1 loss on the 30th of December.
3 Leicester goals.
Say it again, sorry.
That was 3 Leicester goals, though. So
yes, definitely 3 Leicester goals. The one of the most difficult things to watch. A player that really helped lead our defensive revival before the World Cup break. Wout Faes has just a shocker of a day with 2 horribly bad luck own goals. And yeah, what do you even say about that, Jim? Besides just shit luck.
I I think there's a bit, and I know this has been a hot topic, especially in the US Foxes chat thread. And I think there's a few people who are kind of saying, well, Wout Fassers, were we a bit too nice to him at the start? I think a lot of it is sort of showing some of his naivety and lack of composure, maybe is the word I'm looking for. Yeah, Matt, both goals were pretty unlucky. The one looping over Danny Ward, Wanny Dord's head, Banana Man, whatever we want to call him. Not much you can do about that one. And then getting trying to clear it, getting hit in the post, and then coming back and then going in off is unlucky for sure. But I think you maybe have to say, are they a couple of goals that did he need to even go for the ball on?
Right.
Well,
right.
And right. I think overall it was not that bad a performance. I think we showed some fight, and I think there was a little bit of a response after the Newcastle game, which was, as Jason said, an absolute humiliation. That was just they had us on toast. But it seemed like there was some signs of promise against Liverpool, who were there. But what can you do for those 2 goals? And I think it just killed all confidence. And this is clearly a team and that is hugely low on confidence right now and just overthinking everything. And I think we'll get into the analysis a bit more for the Brighton game on some of that. But yeah,
Definitely.
Yeah, well, the spirit of Frank Sinclair is still alive and well around Leicester City Football Club with those own goals.
There was a few references made to that. Yeah, definitely over the weekend too when discussing Mr. Foss. I just think, you said, what can you do about it? Well, the one I know that I heard Danny call him off that ball all the way in fucking San Diego. So I'm not sure how he missed being called off that ball, but
maybe he was so surprised that Danny Ward actually called for a cross that he wanted it instead of that. I'm not going to go into Danny Ward bashing right now. He's been okay.
There's way more bashing to go around. From there might be then we go from there, guys. We went to Fulham. Fulham, who they're what is going on with that team? I mean, that was awful, Jason.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think we did deserve something out of that game. Certainly in the second half, we had them on the ropes, and Yuri almost scored another worldie and was denied by the woodwork again. So. I think so. I think I remember him hitting a bar, but
yes.
maybe I'm
misremembering
that. Yeah. So I mean, it made a great play. First half we were pretty poor. Second half, I think, came back, played a lot better, had Fulham on the ropes, deserved something out of that game. But I think what this Fulham side showed is how important it is to kind of be big, nasty, and tough when you can't play the football. You're not always going to be able to play great football. And sometimes you have to be big. Sometimes you have to be tougher. Sometimes you have to be meaner on the other side. And Fulham can do that against any side in the world. And they showed that against us. And, they're a bunch of dirty bastards on that side. And you know what? Good for them. You got to be like that sometimes. And I think our issue is that we always try to football our way out of any danger. And sometimes, if you're in an alley, and there are 2 guys there looking to mug you and there's no way to go, you might not be able to really kind of like talk your way out and and ration and reason with them. You may have to fight your way out of that. And sometimes you have to do that in a football match. You've got to fight your way through the match. And Fulham did an excellent job for that. I have a lot of respect for that team.
I have a lot of respect for them too, man. And frankly, it's because they have something that we have pined for all season, and that's an identity. You know what you're going to get when you're coming into a match against Fulham. Mitrovic's going to play your ass off. Like what's coming, and we have nothing, Jim. Like we have zero identity.
Oh, absolutely. I think that was also a Mitrovic masterclass. He bullied the hell out of our back 4, and I say back 4 because he was going back and forth across the line. He would pick whoever he wanted to, and he would just create it. I think, Willian decided to actually turn up and play a game as well, which was a bet. And then I think Leno had a really good game, as Jason said, that we kind of huffed and puffed on that game and we didn't really get much. I think it was a bit of a case of too little, too late and not really showing up. And again, sort of showing that when you concede an early goal, that maybe should we have let that one in? We didn't. We just sort of they didn't need to do anything after they were 1-0 up, and they knew we didn't have much to respond to. And Matt, as you said, identity, but I think more something that's been a recurring theme: too slow, and too plodding to move the ball. It's easy for teams just to go back and sit back and let us try to do something. And Jason, as you said, Yuri nearly scores a worldie and gets us out of it. I think, was that the game that Vardy had 2 chances when he should have scored, or was that a different game? It's all blurring to me now as well. But no, that was last weekend. Yeah, we didn't do much, and yeah, that was a nothing game. We should have got a point, I think, but we should move on.
Definitely. We went from there. We finally do get a win, but definitely not one that anyone wants to hang their hat on in the FA Cup third round match against Gillingham. On paper, we should win that 9-0, and instead we once again played down to an opponent, Jason.
Yeah, we played a few of the kids that don't really have much experience playing, first team football. So, but again, I think what Jim said, the pace of play was just too slow. We really couldn't create much because Gillian packed it in, and we couldn't move the ball and create space and create chances quickly enough. But, once again, Kelechi Iheanacho shows why he is the cup god. Gets a goal, and I thought he was actually very good in that second half. He made a lot happen, and so yeah, big. That was the bright spot for me. And defensively, we did all right because when you're not tidy with the ball and you're moving it too slow, you're going to give up chances. You're going to give up chances on the counter, and we were fine from the keeper and the players in front of him when dealing with those threats.
Yeah, I think Brunt and McAteer had good games from the youngsters' perspective. I think McAteer had an all right game. I think Brunt was solid. He was playing sort of right center back, right winger. Couldn't really tell what he was doing. But Jason, you're spot on. Kelechi just getting us a goal, and I think the biggest takeaway is why the heck is that guy not getting more game time?
Yep.
What's he said to Brendan? What's he not said to Brendan? I don't know. That we are clearly crying out for, since Madison's been gone, someone who can just drop off and link the play. I think the recurring theme, we saw it at Brighton again, is whoever's playing up top and this rotating has got to stop. They just pick a center forward at this point. But they're on their own. They're standing on, Matt, how many times do we say, look at Vardy on his own, and then there's 6-8 Brighton players on the screen, when you're watching them, and there's 3 Leicester players.
Yep.
And if we don't have Madison, Kelechi's probably our best bet for linking up the play with the center forwards. He can drop off, he can score a goal. He's not the fastest, so I don't know what the deal is. And whatever we've been doing hadn't been working, so why not mix it up? He gets you a goal in the Gillingham game in a tough, windy, scrappy game, and we'll probably see him again on Saturday. Another early kickoff, yay! And hopefully he gets another goal for us because I'm sure he'll play, and we'll kind of move on through. But why not build on some of the good things that happen in that? And I don't really want to talk about the next 2 games, to be honest, but I know you want to.
Yeah, go ahead, Jason.
Yeah, well, yeah, I guess we have to take our medicine and move on to the next one.
Yeah, unfortunately. EFL Cup, we're in the quarterfinals, matchup against Newcastle. You might think, well, we just played them. Brendan's gonna have a game plan this time coming in, and we're gonna figure something out. And it was, yeah. Take it away, Jason.
Yeah, well, a couple of things there too, and I think this is something I forgot to mention in the Fulham game, but had to make kind of 2 last-minute change. Well, 1 last-minute change in KDH getting hurt right before kickoff, and then Samari gets hurt 5 minutes into the game. So it's tough for a side to kind of recover from that, losing 2 midfielders in essence before just as the game starts. So I guess that was always going to be a tough one, but we got ourselves back into that. But I think against Newcastle, you can see just the difference in the lineups, and just on paper they're better. They have a coach. They're the side that's just oozing with confidence. Got a good manager who's got everyone on the same page. They know that they've got all that Saudi money coming in, and these guys know that other players will come in, and I don't know, literally and figuratively, I think these guys are playing to stay off the chopping block, and they they had a packed house for League Cup quarterfinal, and they know this is a chance to get some silverware, that they win something. They haven't won anything in quite some time, and they all want it, and they were just better. They're just a better side. But I think also this is kind of an example, and this kind of happened in the next two games after this as well. But it's a symptom, I think, of the club and how we play. And not just this season, but I think going back the last like 2 seasons or so, where we don't really, like, if you look at the stats and you look at a lot of the advanced stats and XG, we don't blow teams out of the water. We don't overload sides and make them deal with like constant chance creation. We don't get a lot of quality chances. We don't get a lot of shots on goal, and we don't make those kind of key passes. But what we do have are, a side with Vardy, Barnes, and Maddison and Tielemans that can pull out individual brilliance and can convert an absurdly high number of their chances. And when you don't have that working for you, and you have a game where we're really kind of getting outplayed, and a chance falls to Vardy, we've just gotten so used to him just putting it away. And that actually doesn't happen for a lot of other sides. So when we get that chance and we don't convert it, we're screwed, because we're not going to see very many of those again. And we had those, great chances to get something, to steal something from the game. Ball doesn't go in the net, and then we're kind of now screwed. And the same thing happens in the next 2 games. Perez also had a chance too that he missed, and I think even blowing that awesome chance, he could have just slid it in, but he went for power. I think he was still our best player that day, and made a lot of made a relatively decent amount of chances happen, and laid a great pass to Vardy that you just expect to go in anytime. But again, we're not creating enough, so when the chances do fall, they have to go in, and when those chances don't go in, we don't win the game.
Yeah, he tends to show up against Newcastle, and it's hilarious because like a lot of those new Newcastle fans that were at the bar for the previous game, none of them had any idea that AOC Perez used to play for them. So this kind of shows where their base is at. Jim, any other comments on that one before we move down this terrible fucking trip?
No, I think Jason nailed it on the Newcastle game for sure.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jim. That means a lot.
Always. You're always there. Well, you're always there. Or you're like the postman. You always deliver. Mailman. Except when Leicester City play on Sundays.
That's it. So from there, guys, we're like, okay, that was bad. But surely we're gonna get this together against Forest, playing at the City Ground. It's gonna be okay. And no, it was not, Jim. 2-0 loss. It was pathetic. It was embarrassing. It was a lot of the same words that we've used this year.
It kind of felt like a bit of a FA Cup rewind, to be honest, with that, Forest team that was better organized, more up for it. And they were clearly hurt from the 4-0 defeat earlier in the season, which I think we talked about was a flattering 4-0. I think I can think of like 2 or 3 chances when Forest were clean through on goal and they didn't score, and they didn't. Danny Ward didn't even really need to make a save, and so you know, so I think they were really hurt from that. They were motivated. They knew that, I think their manager had got them up for it. They were like, look, if we win this game, we leapfrog our rivals. We get out of the, you know, we get out the relegation scrap, or we kind of at least debate it a little bit. The pressure goes all onto Leicester. They're not informed. They're not starting quickly. And I think one of the things that was worse was we actually kind of held on okay first half. I thought we were not, I think it was pretty odd, you know, on as even. But then they just came out and blocked second half. Johnson scoring, you know, pretty quickly after the halftime. Again, you know, it's that huff and puff. We didn't do much. And then, you know, sucker punch, you know, 5 minutes before the end to just take us out. And we didn't, I couldn't see what we were doing. And like, even, you know, we just weren't at the races on that. Jason, you've got more insight.
Yeah, there were a couple of things that just like just some of the recurring themes we talked about. Mudfast's naivety and on that first goal, stepping up when he did and just moving when he did and kind of blowing the offside trap and just mistiming it and going in like just being that rash about how he was moving without really being aware of what was going on around him, just kind of gifted that goal in essence. And then the second goal, I think, says a lot about the mentality of the side. Wilfred Ndidi is not on a yellow card. He's a destroyer in the middle of the field, and he just gets completely bullied. And any side that is, you know, that has that awareness of a game situation and also has that kind of will to win, is either winning that ball or fouling the player there and not letting that play progress down the pitch. And he did nothing and just kind of let himself kind of get beat very easily off that ball, which you just would not expect your destroyer. You should no side in this flight should expect the destroyer to get beaten that way. And it happened, but I don't think it's just on Wilf. I think it's still kind of the way the side kind of approaches games. And there's just, again, we try to kind of football our way out of things and just kind of do it the nice, classy way, where you've got to get mean, you've got to get dirty sometimes. And that was a perfect situation when the time came when there's no way to kind of football your way out of that. You take the ball, you take the man, or you take both. And and when you don't take anything, you're not leaving with anything either. You're not leaving with any points.
It was just, you know, and Wilf's a perfect example of like a player that he was going to come back from injury and was going to, you know, answer a lot of our problems. And it's just been a recurring thing, man. Like if it's not, we talked about, you know, guys that can provide individual brilliance, and we were relying on that. How long were we literally, if James Maddison didn't come out with a worldie or Yuri didn't come out with a worldie, we weren't scoring at all. And now we're seeing the opposite end of it, and it's not fun to watch, Jim.
No, and I think this is probably the point where like we have a large number of players underperforming and gradually getting worse. I think Wilf is a prime example of he's not fit, but he's just got no confidence. He doesn't seem to know how to position himself. He's giving away cheap fouls when he is playing. We know he was never the best passer, but he's not even really able to kind of put passes together. We think about the goals that we've scored as well. I was looking at the XG and the stats, and Barnes and Maddison, top scorers, 7 each, both outperforming XG by Barnes is about 5.5 goals he should have scored. He scored 7. Maddison has scored 7. He should have scored 2.3, 2.4 based on the XG. So if that doesn't show that Maddison's getting us out of trouble consistently, I don't know what is. I think we all were like praying he was going to get something in that last minute free kick against Brighton on Saturday, because it was in territory and it was like, okay, he's back, baby. He's going to do something. And, unfortunately he couldn't. But everyone else kind of on par, but not really contributing. Like Vardy not contributed anything this season really, but he's been on his own. And I think it's just tough because how can you get a run when you're playing one game and then you don't play a game and then you play a game and then you don't play a game? And I think with Vardy, I think a lot of people have said this, but like to me, he's bring him on in the 65th minute, 70th minute, and just run as hard as you can for 20 minutes if you need to. But we kind of need to either start Daka every game and get him some momentum, or we need to start, Kelechi or a pair, with Maddison back, we'll see. And, we'll probably get into transfers and maybe will that alter the team shape and whatever. But I'm still very concerned about even the noise on the transfers, about a lack of a midfielder who's going to progress the ball and keep it moving. Jason, you've said this before, but like Dewsbury Hall last season, revelation, he was fighting, but he was also moving the ball and either carrying or passing. And now it's like he has to do a 270-degree spin to get it onto his left foot. And then he gets tackled during that, or something just is not clicking. And again, we're seeing that too many sort of basic mistakes and errors. And I think it's sort of like almost like Puel ball in a way of, pass sideways, sideways, backwards, sideways, backwards. Albright coming in, lumping across into one guy on his own against four defenders or whatever, So, that's where we are at the moment. But I think there's a glimmer of light we have a signing, we have potentially two more, maybe. But let's get through the recap and then we can maybe talk positive, because it can't get much worse than the Forest result to me. I don't know, that was probably worse than the Newcastle result because of who we played. And luckily no one from Forest came up to us in Orlando to gloat it over us. I did chat to a lovely Forest fan who was very gracious. But they were a vendor, so they probably had to be nice.
Yeah, don't give them any credit. That has to be the story.
Yeah, that was
100%.
Come on, Matt, take us home.
No, I'm with you there, dude. I just truly I feel like it was more embarrassing, just simply of who it was. Like, I mean, and kind of it was a perfect statement for where we were. Like, you could have that would have been a perfect springboard for us to kind of get go into the City Ground, go in and then remind them of who we are, who they are, and instead, just a shit result. And then, we've talked a little bit about the last week's result in Brighton 2-2. Obviously, Mark Albrighton gets a goal. Anytime Marky gets a goal, I'm going to love it. But a game, guys, we should have just dominated again. There were parts, and especially with the form that Brighton's going in, the fact that we held them as close as we did was great. But I really, after what they did to Liverpool, especially, but I just think like it's so many what ifs, and the offense looks lethargic. And yeah, maybe now that Big Dick Chris is coming into the side, the newest signing, we definitely finally have a signing, another center back. He comes in. Let's hope. Could he be the spark, Jason?
Yeah, well, I disagree that we should have dominated that game. I think this is a really good Brighton side. They're really well coached. They know what they're doing out there. I think the draw in some ways flattered us a bit, because Brighton did have some really good chances that they should have put away.
Same, yeah.
And there was a penalty shout, which I don't know if it's a penalty or not. I don't want to watch it again, because I at first glance it did look like one to me, and I would think that you would see a lot of Premier League refs give that. So I'm hoping. I think I'm too afraid to watch a replay of that. So
no, I did, Jason, and it was a defo pen.
Okay,
I don't know how they didn't do that.
And so we again, we're here, we're there against a team that's doing really well this year. And Brighton, they're not taking any prisoners. They completely smoked us when we went down to their place. Like, we got our asses kicked down there in the South Coast. And so they came up to our place. Our squad's in a sorry state right now. Now it did look a little bit better. It's nice to see some familiar names back in the starting lineup, and just really just talking about one, Kieran Dewsbury Hall. So he's got enough names to go around. You might think that we actually had a few signings already, but no, just one player coming back from injury. It's good to see him out there, but again, we had to kind of put all hands on deck just to defend all game.
Mm-hmm.
And when you do that, Vardy spent like the whole game in our half. And when you don't have any outlets there, you're just going to be pinned down. And we were doing that, and you could see, like, by the end of the game, Tielemans, I thought, put in an amazing shift defensively, but he was absolutely gassed, and there was no one to take him off for. He had to stay out there. And you could see, the last goal happens. Everyone's just kind of looking around. They're spent because you spent 90 minutes just defending for your lives. And we took off Vardy, who I think was doing an excellent job defending and kind of keeping all of his players focused and motivated and keeping the crowd motivated. I think people love to see when Vardy goes back and gets dirty and makes a big play. Take him off and immediately give up a goal. And you could see when Vardy was coming off the pitch, he was like yelling instructions and encouragement to his teammates to try to keep their heads into it. But I'm sorry, you're just not going to be able to defend that long against any quality side in this division. And we couldn't do it. And again, we blew the game. It just goes back to, I think, the mentality, this overcautiousness, and this insistence on footballing our way out of things, and you can't do that. You can't just, like, when the game's not going well. My philosophy is that you need to simplify the game as much as possible. Give the players as little to think about as possible. You need to have your bread and butter set up that you can do, and your players can play in their sleep. And you have no chance when you're switching things up and you're moving things around and you're trying to, like, overcomplicate defensive schemes against a side as well coached as Brighton are. I mean, they were with Potter when we went down and played them at their house. They were, played us off the pitch. You can see we were kind of looking around, didn't know who to pass to. Now De Zerbi has had his time with that team now for a little while. We've been able to kind of drill in how he wants his football to be played, and they showed up to our place. They had a plan. They knew exactly what to do. And but I do think that Christensen will help. We see that sometimes kind of we keep Thomas, who I thought did an admirable job defensively, kind of pinned in. He has no support. He has no outlets, no one to pass to. A fullback like Christensen in a game like this may have helped us because he could take the ball and just really drive it up the pitch.
Yeah.
Sorry,
yeah,
that was a long rant, but that was the end of just like of just a run of shit for all these weeks. So sorry everyone, it just all just came out of me right there.
That was great. Jim, what were you gonna add, dude?
Well, I think Jason was spot on. I think Luke Thomas did an admirable job on the left-hand side. He didn't get any support from Wout Faes, who again had a stinker. I think you are like the two best chances they had, they didn't score from. I was having a look at this because I do sometimes do some prep for this podcast, folks. But the goals they scored between them, the XG, the combined XG for both their goals that went in was 8%. So 3% for Matomo's goal and 5% for Ferguson's. But they had, if we remember, they had that sort of double chance with Danny Welbeck and the other dude, like right on our goal line that nothing happened from it. And we kind of scrambled it away. They had the Sully March, sort of skying it over the bar after, and then looking back at the turf. I think, Matt, we started cheering about the groundsman is our best player.
Yes, we did
at that point. And then, you mentioned in the intro, but, one of the things that we talked about a lot is, Harvey Barnes scored and he turned up and he got a goal. But there were other bits of the game. Like if Harvey Barnes has no time to think, and we said this at halftime, like Harvey Barnes has to think, he can't do it. But that goal was just instinctive. He was in the right place. It was a great flick on from the defender. straight to him. He was unmarked, and I just love looking at all the Brighton defenders looking at each other like, how is this guy standing in like 3 yards out and unmarked? And, you know, Barnes didn't have to think, and he just smashes it in. You know, Albright's goal, yeah, it was kind of, you know, pinball or whatever. And I think there was a shout for, is it offside? You know, we were shouting handball as it struck the defender the first time, and then it struck the defender the second time. And then I watched the Albright's finish again, and the way he sort of just takes a touch, he looks and he composes himself, and then he slots it in, and it was a really, really nice finish. And I think he played well. But I think, Jason, as you said, we were flabbergasted by, like, you know, Vardy, not much offensive contribution, defensive and organizational and leadership. He displayed that throughout the game. And to make the substitution in the 86th minute when we were 2-1 up and we haven't won a game in 2023 in the league, and we're low on confidence, and we're winning against the team where we've, as you said, we've got away with it, that we shouldn't be winning this game, and we are. And then we, like, can we just survive this? And, okay, let's just take off Vardy and bring on Daka. Like, what is that substitution all about? Yeah, we'll hear Brendan Rodgers say, oh, I'm maintaining the same formation or whatever. I call BS on that. Like, the reason that, you know, ultimately we led in the goal because Daka's pass was sloppy and it went straight to them on a play where we shouldn't have lost the ball. And then, you know, there was a calamity of errors and a freaking, 12-yard header that was in the far corner, and probably the most perfect header you can score from a young lad. I don't know how old he was. That Brendan after the game said, it's great, these youngsters. I'm so proud of them. You know, screw you. Like, what are you doing? Like, we could have just we didn't have much left on the bench. I was looking at what subs we could have made. We could have brought Collecti on, who we know can hold the ball up and will just time waste. We could have put, you know, we had McAteer. We're not going to put Vestergaard on. He's just making space. Probably Soyuncu's not the right head. We're not going to put Lewis Brunt on. So either see if Vardy can sweat it out and he's just organizing and closing down, or you bring in Nacho on and you just say, right, dude, the ball's going to stick to you. You and Maddison. Like, Maddison came on and I thought he was really impressive for someone who's been out for a while as well. And, you know, I don't think he got a great rating, but he did some stuff. And I think he got fouled a few times when he didn't get a call. But I just don't understand what happened and why you would make that substitution at that point to sort of bring on a player who we know hasn't got the best ball retention skills. He's an instinctive finisher and who can take chances that he's being starved of today. Like Vardy. He's like Vardy in that sense, but he doesn't have the link-up play in the nous to go and be dirty. He's like probably the nicest guy I'm sure you will ever meet. You know, Patson Daka looks like the nicest guy in the history of the world. But that's not what you need when you need to be mean and you need to get 3 points when you haven't won a game. And so I think that, like, that call is a bit on the manager that to do that when, you know, we lost Pratt, so it cost us a sub early. We lost Dewsbury Hall because he was knackered, right? But I don't know. I look back on it and I think that was the 3 points we should have won, that we should have looked back and said, well, we shouldn't have got that.
Yeah, and dude, like, he's making those. This is
Matt,
this is what
your
we knew
turn,
was
Matt.
gonna
Just
happen.
lay it on us, Matt.
We knew this was going to happen when you skip this many games in a row. We've got all sorts of shit to vent about, but yeah, his substitutions, then his fucking weird ass comments after the game, talking about, you know, so he's pissing off the locker room on top of that, and top of the fans. It's just like, man, you fucking had got yourself out of the hole. We're singing your praises again, admitting we were wrong, eating crow on the podcast. Brendan's back. Brendan's boys are back. And now we are literally exactly back where we were, it feels like, Jason. It's you couldn't have made it up.
Yeah, I mean, I think I don't know what he's trying to do with those comments and saying that there are players who are kind of happy to give away the ball and don't. Well, you made a change that made that worse. You made a terrible change in this game. You set up a side that had to play with 11 men behind the ball pretty much the whole game. So don't give any players, and any room to kind of feel comfortable on the ball. Um, we play this setup where we insist on swinging the ball out wide to Luke Thomas when he has nobody around him, and Barnes is miles up the pitch. You don't have a midfielder coming to get it, and you don't have any support from your center back. Yeah, we're gonna keep the ball. We're gonna do a terrible job keeping the ball that way. I mean, Brighton showed up. Jim, I don't know if you have the stats up in front of you, but I think they had like 60 something percent of the ball, 65% of the ball. That's absurd to let happen.
Yeah.
In your own pitch, now in your own stadium. But listen, I get it. The side isn't where we want it to be. Players are underperforming. There are injuries.
They had 56%, but almost double the passes we had. Like the whole game, we made 383 passes. We only forced their keeper to make one save, which is one more than we had been. If we were, honest about it. We had 383 passes, of which we completed 307. So it's kind of like high percentage passes, but not many of them. So what are we doing? We're knocking it around the back. And then, I think probably all of the 70, 75, 76 passes that didn't complete were Marc Albrighton crossing it from 45 yards out. And maybe Yuri trying to force something. But it was, we didn't have any offsides. So we're not even testing their back line with that. We did have a lot of block shots. I think, they did defend and they put up a very low block after I think when Matomo scored and then we were kind of chasing, we did go and push him a bit. And I think when we got to 1-1, there was at the event, there was this huge, it was like a weight had been lifted, because when they went 1-0 up, this was it. We were just like, this is crushed. We have a terrible record at Premier League fan fests anyway. Probably all my fault because of all the ones I've been to. But, the only game that I think we've even won related to a fan fest is probably the 9-0. And that wasn't even on the day of a fan
Friday.
Fest,
the
day after, the day before. So, but, we scrapped our way back into it. We got, that goal, as we talked about, Marc Albrighton, smashing it home or sliding it home. I don't know what you want to call it. After that scramble, which was like, oh my gosh, this is not going to happen. And then it went in and everybody went nuts. And I think if you look at the NBC, Instagram, there's a story about us going literally nuts and dancing around and, getting called out for that, and then I think just the Barnes goal sort of, from the corner we talked about is this is it. This is going to happen. And we got away with, we should have been 2-1 down to 3-2 to a couple of goals down at least. And we got away with it. And then it looked like we were going to hold out. And I've got to give a shout out to my friend Tom, who was visiting over from the UK and was at the Fan Fest. And he turned up twice during the game. The first one was 2 minutes after the first goal that Brighton scored, and the second one was 2 minutes before they equalized. So thanks, Tom, for ruining everything for us all. And I know Matt and Jason know Tom, so he's a lovely lad, and he's all right. He's a good guy.
Yeah,
but it wouldn't have been, I'm going to put that on him.
Yeah.
So I'm putting on Brendan.
Well,
yeah, man,
go ahead, Jason. Sorry.
No, I was just going to say, Matt, you talked earlier about the Brendan Rodgers redemption tour that we had kind of pre-World Cup. But I'm kind of sick of the Rodgers kind of self-preservation campaign and some of these comments that you talked about and you mentioned, and to go out and kind of criticize your players like that when you deserve plenty of the blame for what's gone on. It's so Leicester of us to finally come back from a losing position just to somehow drop more points. But we've dropped a ridiculous number of points from winning positions going back the last 2 seasons. So this is not an isolated incident. This isn't something that's only happening to this particular set of players because we're missing folks and we need fresh guys. at this point, I mean, this is the personality. This is the manager's personality, and this is the squad projecting the manager's personality and approach to football. Over analyzing things, making the players think too much, which slows the game down, and not showing the courage and the grit that you need in those moments. And you have to think about some of the great motivators and managers that are out there. Their players would run through brick walls for them, and we just don't see that here with these guys. And I'm at a point where I don't care how big your football brain is anymore, Brendan. Like I'm over it. Like
Yeah.
you need to work with. You've got to. I had some sympathy for him. We haven't been pulling in the players that we need. Obviously we can see where the squad is weak. We've been trying to sign a right winger for eternity, and still can't get one. But man, it's just these excuses and blaming players and just kind of like this,
praising the competition's players.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like I don't know what I don't know what he's trying to do anymore, and I don't think the players know what he's trying to do. And I think the players probably do like him, but I'm over it, man. I'm over the comments. I'm just over the approach to football that he's bringing. It's not enjoyable. It's not even. Let's be honest. Like when this whole squad's fit, for a while, it hasn't even been that enjoyable of football. Like what's bringing us joy is when Madison does something amazing.
Yeah.
When Barty does something amazing. When Barnes makes
Yuri hits a worldie.
Yuri scores a worldie. But like he's not out here kind of giving us anything, and never has really made an attempt to kind of forge any kind of relationship with the fans, which I think is really bizarre, considering this is our period of biggest our biggest period of sustained success, and Rodgers really should go out. I know there are a lot of fans that love him no matter what, but I mean, come on, things have to be better than this.
Yeah, I think most everybody else is where you are now, Jason.
No, I mean, there were a lot of people that will go to the stadium, the fans there that are still very much, really, really love Rodgers and what he's done. And I respect all of that, and I love my opportunity to go to a European semifinal. This is the time of my life. So there are still a lot of folks, and they're probably still, some of those folks are probably in the board right now too. So
yeah,
but
it's just crazy. I mean, we just said it's a bunch of individual players, and he hasn't coalesced the locker room. And when it did seem like the locker room was coalescing, maybe it was naturally, maybe the guys had just decided, forget him. Let's do this on our own, and we lost all that momentum after the World Cup break. So, I mean, it's go ahead.
Yeah, well, Jim made a good point earlier. It's kind of like preseason or mid-season preseason. What's going on with the club when you have that time with them, because they're coming out of it looking worse than when they came into it.
Exactly. And it's in such stark contrast to a team like Brighton. They have, in 13 games, they have 26 goals with a brand new coach. And you're talking about the only team that scored more than them is Man City in that amount of time. So
Erling Haaland.
True.
Erling Haaland, who scored more goals than us and plenty of other teams too.
Very half the league,
yeah. So yeah, guys, winless in last 5 now, and
in 23,
conceding 10 after winning 5 of their previous 8 in October and November, and only shipping 3 goals in total. So, I guess all that being said, guys, let me throw in the Chris Warner. He's not here, so I'll just throw in what I imagine he would say in this point is, lads, we're in 14th. It could be worse. Somehow we're in 14th. So there's ways to go here, and maybe we can coalesce. We've got a game now this weekend, 4:30 a.m. West Coast. against Walsall. Maybe we can use that as a springboard, Jason, to kick it back in.
Yeah, and I'm hoping with some new blood. We've signed Victor Christensen, so or Christensen, and I've got to work on got to figure out how to say his name. But we who will help. He looks like a tidy player. It does look like we are really trying to seal the deal on Suter, however you want to say his name too, the fake Aussie from Scotland, which I think he could be an interesting signing for us, and some height. He looked good during the World Cup. He is coming back from he did have a bit of an injury, but Stoke need the money. We might be able to figure out a deal for him, and it does look like we have been aggressively going after a right winger, which would be the answer to our prayers. And the name that keeps popping up is a Brazilian one. So I mean that me, all I've wanted is just for Leicester to sign a Brazilian. At this point, I will I don't know what I'll take anything at this point, even a gift certificate to go get a wax. We need a Brazilian. It's 2023. Look all around England and look at all these sides. They have been littered with just legendary Brazilians. I don't know. Middlesbrough has had however many Brazilians. We've never had one. So
the ones we made cry.
It's time. It's time. That's right. It's time. Rudkin and whoever and Martin Glover and everyone's involved. The people need our prayers answered, and let's see if we can bring Tete in.
Well, will it be the Brazil? We get promise of Brazilian right winger, and we sign Jack Harrison for £30 million instead.
That's what it sounds like.
That feels like a Leicester story being made, and
Pretty
then
so.
Everton or whoever will go sign.
Tete. Well, I'm afraid because if we're looking for a Brazilian right winger and Bolsonaro's out of a job and in Florida right now, so hopefully not him. But
man, how we miss out on Matomo? By the way, that dude, he looks really good. That wasn't a beautiful goal, but that would have been a nice stud.
Yeah, go on, Jason.
So I was gonna say, freaking, Brighton's gonna take that trust on money and spend $2 million on 5 different players from every corner of the globe that no one knows about, and they're gonna show up and just be just absolute machines.
Remember those days. Those days. Well, guys, on that note, it sounds like Jim's about to die. So we will wrap this up before he coughs off. Apologies again about the lack of pods, but we are back on schedule now, and hopefully we'll have lots of good news to report to them soon, Jason, right?
Yeah, and I'll kind of want to end things on a little bit more of a positive note than my just miserable rants before. But thank you. This is my therapy session. So all of you who have somehow made it this far in the episode, thank you for hearing me out. But we're still in the hat for the FA Cup. The magic of the FA Cup. Even Leicester City Football Club are still in the competition, and you know what? All can be forgiven. The whole season can just be a complete mess. But if you do something in FA Cup, all will be forgiven. We know how special that trophy is. We know how long it took us to win it. We don't want to wait that long to win it again. I think we have a pretty favorable draw. Thank you, Emil Heskey. You picked some good numbers for us when you did do the draw. So I am looking forward. I love the FA Cup. I'm looking forward to the competition and hoping we can stay in the hat for the next round.
Yeah, hopefully, and I don't know about all can be forgiven. Let's not pull a Wigan, but
I'll take maybe not that, but I'll take 17th in the trophy.
Absolutely, all day long.
I think I'll just take 17th at this point. I think our goal we talked about.
So. Yeah, you're right.
I think something that was revealed was this would be the last fan fest of the season for NBC. So let's hope that we are able to say we're going to watch Leicester and at Fan Fest next season. That's my goal.
Yeah, otherwise
Feel
the
like a trophy
Foxes
at that
are.
point.
Yeah, otherwise our U.S. Foxes family reunion will look a lot different. All of us meeting somewhere to watch a championship match on some
exactly. ESPN
illegal Chinese streaming service. Yeah.
No,
Um,
listen, all the games are available now in the second division.
are they all on there, or was it just
Yeah, you
select
get your
ones?
iFollow, you get your club account.
Yeah.
You'll always be able to find it somehow. So, we know when there's a will to watch Leicester City Football Club, there's a way to watch Leicester City
Well,
Football Club.
yeah,
We will make
and,
that happen.
and I'm hoping when we talk on Sunday, Matt, we'll have signed a Brazilian winger, we'll have signed a Scots Aussie centre back, and we'll be in the next round of the FA Cup. And then we'll look forward to 4 wins in February against like some puny opposition that we don't even need to bother talking about.
Absolutely. Let's go ahead, Jason. Sorry, you were you gonna
Sign me up. That's all I needed.
Yeah,
That's all I wanted to say.
100%, guys. So yeah, Walsall, it should be hopefully no magic of the FA Cup for them, and we come out, we put together a professional performance, and yeah, we hop back on the horse because we've got Villa then the next week. So we will go then. Guys, thank you again for joining us. Sorry again for the lack of pods, but as we said a few times, we're back on schedule now, so you look for us again next Sunday. And we will hopefully be then from then on back on Sundays. And this one's weird, but we were traveling back from Orlando, so that's why we had to get it done tonight.
And maybe less ranty and more structured.
Yes, definitely. There will be more of that.
But that's not
we're all off of our game a little bit. So thank you for bearing with us. You guys are the best. To everyone that we saw out in Orlando, all the people that we talked to that, either were already listeners or were going to be listeners. Thank you for sticking with us. Had a great time with you all. And yeah, guys, let's hit the ground running and see what happens. It's all we can hope for from here. And yeah, some new signings would be nice. So for Jim and for Jason and for Chris behind the scenes, thank you for joining us in the US Foxes podcast. We will see you next week. And yeah, as Chris likes to always say, keep the faith, guys.